Yep. Hello, everyone. This is Elise from Sweat Guru, here to talk business boot camp with Minila Shah. Minila is the founder and director of Ajna Dance, an amazing Bollywood dance company based in New York. Hi, Minila.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, excited to have our Google Hangout.
Me too. This has been long in coming, and I've been looking forward to it. Um, I'd love for you to just, introduce yourself to everyone, tell them where to find you online and in person as well.
Sounds good. So my name again, as Elise mentioned, is Minila Shah, and I founded and run Ajna Dance Company in New York City. Although we do travel sort of outside the city for classes, workshops, and performances, you can find more about our company and me on our company website, which is ajnadance.com. That's A-J-N-A dance.com. Our Twitter handle is @AjnaDance, and we're also on Facebook, facebook.com/AjnaDance. So we're all over, we're online, so hit us up and find us and do follow us and like us to stay up to date with sort of Bollywood and fitness related news and updates.
Here to talk business boot camp with Minila Shah. Okay, great. Thank you, Minila. I just realized that my interview was also playing in the background, so I had to go pause that. So yes, everyone, please go check them out. They do amazing work and are just gorgeous performers and teach really fun, energetic classes. So please do go check them out. But Minila, let's start by just talking about how you got into this in the first place. When did you start dancing, and when did you discover that you were a dancer?
That's a great question. Dancing was my mother's dream that she never was able to realize. And so when I was 5, she put me in a classical Indian dance class because it was something she had always wanted to learn as a child and never had the chance to growing up in India with her family's situation and circumstance. And so as a kid, it was kind of a chore because the type of dance I was learning, it's a classical dance form comparable to ballet where it's very structured, very rigid, very disciplined. And so at 5 years old, you're just like, oh, this sucks. But I'm so pleased and so grateful and so thankful because that training that I did over the course of the next 10 years really built a solid foundation for me in classical dance, technique, rhythm, grace, connecting to Indian culture. And I always danced as a hobby through elementary school, through high school, and college. I was part of various dance shows in our college. I taught friends and family. And then even after graduating with a business degree, I moved to Chicago. I worked in strategy for many years, and I would dance again part-time as a hobby. I had friends we'd dance with, we'd perform, but never a career until I moved to London, where I fell into this opportunity to sort of have run a Bollywood dance company full-time. And it wasn't my company, but I was able to sort of be in charge of all the operations, marketing, the business side as well as all the creative side, so the choreography, the classes, and I was able to take something that existed but really reshape it, bring my own flair to it, and at that moment I realized that I could do something that I loved, I could make a living doing it, and it was so much more gratifying, and I was sharing some gift that I had with other people. So that was really where a shift happened for me in my mid-20s. And then I moved to New York 3 years ago. I had to close the company in London and sort of start over. It took me some time. I got a day job, sort of figured out my game plan, and I left my job to sort of pursue my own company here in New York. I think London was just an eye-opener, and then it took me a little bit longer to come here because you want to do it smart, you want to do it right. You don't want to jump in without the proper planning. And so I took some time, built some contacts, started teaching part-time, and then launched the company at the start of this year.
Wow, that's an amazing story. I think, it's something that everyone thinks about is, taking the plunge and living the dream or finding that opportunity that opens you up to a whole new career in something that you've always loved. And I think it's so inspiring to hear stories like yours where you really you made it happen.
Yeah, and like you guys as well, the struggle, and it's not easy, but I feel like you're doing yourself an injustice if you don't try and pursue it. And I think you can't just feel like doing something one day. There has to be a seed that has to be nurtured. You have to really be committed to it and passionate about it. But it is possible to live the dream and do what you love, if you can find that thing that's right for you.
Definitely. You know, I think how you describe it as nurturing a seed is really, really apt, because it's not something you can just decide to do one day and then bang, it happens. But you
Right.
really have to be persistent and work at it. Were there any moments during that nurturing phase that you felt like giving up? Like, was there ever a time when you thought, oh, I can't really do this?
You know, I think that's natural, and I think most entrepreneurs and people who start their own business, there's moments of doubt, and I think that's only human. And I think for me, it was at the very early stages where I didn't know how things would pick up or how busy my classes would get, how many performances we'd do, and so it was just that fear of failure. You know, before I even really gave it 110%, it's like a little bit of doubt where what if I can't do it, or what if it doesn't manifest or happen in the way I want it to. But it's like, for me, I'm a very positive and optimistic person, so I'm aware of those feelings and those thoughts, but it's like, okay, you're going to try your best, and come what may, but at least you can't regret that you didn't try. And every time I've put forth 110%, I've seen results. It's a slow and steady climb, and nothing happens overnight, but week after week we're getting busier. Unique and interesting opportunities are popping up. So it's just about staying true to what you believe in and not letting those negative and fearful thoughts sort of creep and take over, because it's human nature, but you have to really feel strongly and confident in what your product or service is and really give it 110%.
Yeah. That's such great advice. I think it's something that a lot of people need to hear, is that success isn't overnight, but if you keep that positive attitude, if you keep that energy, and you just keep going for it, that it will come. What's been the most gratifying part of starting your own company?
I think knowing that I've created like something out of nothing. So there was nothing there, and now it's something. And we have clients. We have very satisfied clients and students that are come back. Really positive word of mouth. And just when you hear from people, whatever difference you've made for them, be it however small, after a class or after performance, someone coming up and saying, I really enjoyed that, or I really feel a connection with what you're doing. So I think both of those things is knowing that I've created this thing that didn't exist before and it's actually doing well, and two, connecting with real people and sort of impacting them in some small way, is very satisfying for me personally.
That's wonderful. Now, I know that for a lot of people who are fitness professionals or performing arts professionals who create their own business, it can be really challenging to find time to practice yourself or to make time to do your own dancing. How do you balance that? Do you still have opportunities to dance and to practice?
I have to create them, because with running the company, teaching classes, I teach a lot of private classes as well. So when I'm not teaching, I'm preparing to teach, whether it's a group class, a private class, some corporate event. So there's a lot of pre and post for all these events, not to mention sort of just running the business and the administrative and social media stuff. But it's important as a dancer to come back and reconnect with what it is that brought me here in the first place. So I have to make a conscious effort to put aside an hour, every couple of days, where I go to the studio and I just rehearse, or I create, or I dance. I also take other classes with other great instructors, which is the beauty of being in a city like New York, because there are so many wonderful dancers and instructors of every style you could ever imagine. But it takes effort because things get busy.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. Yeah, it sounds like you've got about 1 million things going on right now.
Yeah, but it's good. I'm not complaining. It's good to be busy.
Yeah. What other kinds of classes do you like to take?
So for me, I get a lot of cardio in my classes. There's some strengthening and toning, but for me, what I've realized as a dancer and a fitness professional is that cardio is not enough. So I've taken some ballet bar classes. There's so many interesting, wonderful classes in New York. Like there's a class that's revolved around a chair, something very interesting. There are these high-intensity cardio/bar classes. So I'm really open. I like practicing yoga, so I end up going to yoga classes as well when I have the time, or I practice at home. But I try and focus on strengthening and toning so that my muscles sort of stay strong, long, and lean while I do all this other dance stuff.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. It's so fun to have variety in your life.
Yeah, and I think just being a creative person, the monotony can get to you. And so I love having options.
Definitely. Now, so you've been dancing forever, basically, and I understand because I started doing ballet at age 5 too, and it was something my mom put me into, and I'm so glad that I've stuck with it, just like you are. But what would you say to someone who's sort of dance curious, who would want to try a Bollywood class, but is a little bit uncomfortable with the idea of dancing in the first place? What would you say to them?
I think that being trained in a classical dance form like yourself, it's very different than what Bollywood offers. And I think why Bollywood is so fun is because it's not an art form in and of itself. It's this dance style that pulls in from Indian culture, but also contemporary hip-hop, jazz, some Latin dance styles, belly dance, and it's all about the music and the choreographer. And since you're not trying to be so disciplined, there's something really freeing about it. And even if you don't get the steps perfectly right and the moves aren't exactly like me, you get to move, you get to dance. The music is so positive and happy that it's actually one of the best classes that I would recommend for someone who is either dance curious, a beginner, likes the idea of dancing but doesn't have the confidence, because it's really fun. And I think it's not an environment where you're being judged in class. It's not so hardcore where you feel intimidated to be there. I create this warm and positive environment where, even if you're new, you'll have a good time. And it might still be challenging, but you'll see progress over time.
Yeah, that's great. And I know you do create a really warm and inviting environment. So I think your classes are a great place for people to start dancing, whether they're really just starting dancing or they just want to try something new and they have other sorts of training in their backgrounds.
Absolutely. We have sort of absolute beginners and we have sort of professional or very experienced dancers, but I think everyone takes away something a little bit different.
That's so wonderful. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk more about the business side of what you're doing. I know you have a lot of private classes that you teach and you work with some corporate clients as well. And that's a space that a lot of other people, really want to get into or have a lot of questions about how to get into. So if you're willing to share with us what your experiences have been like, how did you go about getting these private clients on board and what lessons have you learned from working with them?
I think because what I do is so niche, I think that helps me because there's not a lot of really high quality professionals offering what I offer. So I think whatever that is, if you have a niche and an angle that's very specific, your pool of clients may not be huge, but your competitors are fewer. Mm-hmm. So if you can do it well and do it right and attract the right people, I think there's a high chance of success. So for me, a lot of people look for choreography, whether that's, and privately, it could be for a wedding-related event, and some people just want private fitness classes or dance technique classes, but they just haven't found the right instructor that they connect with in the style that they're looking for. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to establish what you're specifically good at and what you can offer people that others can't. The corporate clients, it was a bit of a snowball effect, and I think, again, having this Indian background, it was Diwali, our sort of Indian Festival of Lights and New Year's, and because our culture is becoming more and more mainstream, you have these corporate customers like Barclays and Google and Wells Fargo, Talbot's, all celebrating and wanting either a performance to share with their employees or a class or a workshop to teach them. And then that snowballs into, well, can you come every week and teach us a fitness class because this is so fun and we have a gym in our building. So it's just building off relationships that you have. I mean, I reached out to everybody that I knew that worked in finance and banks, corporate offices, saying, do you know if there's some sort of celebration? Would they be interested in this? So being proactive, following up on every lead, but really being professional and showing what you can offer that maybe is difficult to find.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, I think your example of being proactive and just going after it is so amazing. And I think that's an area where a lot of people have a lot of questions about, how to approach people about bringing what you have to offer into their workplace. Are there any tips in terms of getting those introductions or anything that you found was especially helpful for getting in the door?
As the months go by, I feel like I've said anything that seemed remotely positive and on the sort of level that I was looking to expand the company, even if it was nonprofit stuff that wasn't paid, pro bono for charity events, but still the right target market, I said yes to everything. And I went out there and I met people and I handed out my business cards, and I would perform so they could see me in action or teach a class and then chat with them after. Because I think what's going to sell you the most is you at your art or your craft, whether that's teaching a class, performing, whatever that is. If people can see you in action and like you, they're going to think of you the next time they have a need for that. So, you know, I don't like networking in the traditional sense where you're like schmoozing, but you have to be open to meeting people, sharing what you do when it makes sense, and making yourself available for things that maybe you're unsure about. You don't know if it's going to go anywhere. But, you know, I've met people and that's led to, oh, I know someone who knows someone who wants something. And you never know what that can turn into.
You know, I love that you said just say yes to everything. That's something that Jamie and I really believe in too, and we have shown up to the most random kinds of things as a result. And actually some of the best developments in our business have come from activities or events where we weren't really sure that they would result in anything, but they ended up being great for us. And just
exactly.
like you said, you know, someone who knows someone else who knows someone else.
You just never know. And at this stage, I don't have much to lose by going. You know, it could be neutral, but there's a good chance, even if it's slightly positive and there's something good that comes out of it, it's not a waste of my time.
Yeah, definitely. Is there one of those events in particular that you think is a good example of just, you know, showing up for something and being open to who you might meet or what the experience might yield?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. But, you know, for example, I have a friend who's part of like an online forum for new parents, and she found that there was a class. There was a Diwali event happening in Tribeca, and they was supposed to be a dance instructor to teach the kids, but they hadn't found someone. And she was like, oh, do you want to reach out to this person and maybe see if you could do it? And so I went along. I took an instructor. We taught a kids class, and now I sort of connected with various people who live in the neighborhood who want to add a few additional kids classes. And so by just going to this thing that I really wasn't sure about, we're probably going to start a few new young children's classes from ages sort of 3 to 4 and then 5 to 6. But, you know, these could be ongoing classes that came because I took a chance.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I'm just loving the idea of kids Bollywood classes.
Oh my God, so cute.
Have you taught kids before?
I have taught kids before, and I have teachers that sort of work with me as freelancers that are also very experienced in teaching kids, because I just can't teach everybody. So I do what I can, and then I find the right people who share the same vision as I do that want to sort of be a part of the company.
Definitely. So, you know, you have all these balls in the air right now. You're teaching classes, both for the public and privately. You have all these corporate clients. You have instructors working for you. You're now doing kids classes. What's your vision for the company? Where do you want to be, and where do you think you're headed?
That's a great question. And right now, things have been charging full steam ahead, that I gave myself till Thanksgiving was over, till mid-December, and then I needed to revise and reflect on my business plan and strategy sort of for the next year, 2, 3. At this stage, what I really am passionate about is sharing dance, fitness, and culture with everybody, South Asians and non-South Asians, especially the culture part. And I wanted to try everything to see what would work best and what I would enjoy doing the best. So the performance part I love, because you're expressing and sharing something, and it's just a different experience than teaching, which is my second love. So I feel like those two have to be part of the company. And I just need to figure out where the demand is, where I see myself. But I actually don't have an answer to your question, is that I want to grow and I want to keep teaching and I want to keep sharing, but I have yet to sort of have a clear answer of exactly what that's going to look like in a year or 3. But I know it's going to be bigger and better and stronger and more dancing and more fun.
That's a great answer, and I completely understand about, you know, giving yourself a deadline and then sitting back and reflecting and trying to think longer term and bigger picture. I know that's something.
Yeah, because we're so caught up in the day-to-day, but I'm conscious of the fact that, okay, well, I'm going to need to take a step back and just evaluate how things are going and choose how I want the business to grow, rather than it take on itself and then become this out-of-control monster, which we don't want.
I know, and the thing about being an entrepreneur is you are always in the weeds.
Always in the weeds.
You're always dealing with the day-to-day stuff, and it can be really hard to step back and say, okay, what's happening in my business and how do I move forward? So I'm excited to hear post-Thanksgiving what the results are, but it sounds like no matter what you end up on, it's going to be a great thing.
Yeah, I'm confident it's about just honing in and focusing, because everything's going well, but you can't be a jack of all trades. So I just have to figure out what it is I want to focus on and then sort of put my energy towards that.
Makes sense. I just have one more question for you. How does your mom feel about your dance company?
Oh my God, she's my biggest fan. I love it. Any video that comes out of me teaching on YouTube, she's sending it to all her friends. She believes in me the most, and I'm so blessed and fortunate to have the family and friends and support that I have, because, again, this is a risky thing and not everybody gets it. So having that network and support of people who believe in you helps you believe in yourself even more. So she couldn't be happier.
That's wonderful. I love it that you started out as a 5-year-old because it was her dream, and you're really living her dream now. I mean,
it's amazing. It's a good story, and it's all true.
That's even better. Well, Minila, thank you so much for joining me for Business Boot Camp today. I loved hearing all about your story from, 5-year-old just getting started all the way to successful entrepreneur, and I can't wait to see where you go next. And I would love for everyone watching to go check out ajnadance.com, and you also join Minila for a class if you're ever in New York City.
Please, we would love that. We would love to have you. All the details are on our website at ajnadance.com. Follow us on Twitter at ajnadance, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you, Minila. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.